Reality check from you, please. Exports in Japan falling more than 39% in April. US consumer confidence may be the biggest gain in 6 years. It's still the lowest in 8 months, and we had home prices down 19%. Given that, I mean, it's not exactly boom time for the exporters. Would you be buying Asian export stocks at the moment?
Well, in general, I would be accumulating Asian stocks in absence of other things that are much better. I kind of like some commodities, but I feel that in Asia we have had 3 markets, Taiwan, South Korea and Japan, that made 20 to 30-year lows last November. So I could argue we've made a major low, and sometimes in the next 10 years you'll make quite a lot of money by being in Asian stocks, certainly compared to US government bonds.
Interesting. As a matter of fact, it was just a few days ago that somebody raised eyebrows in Japan, saying that Japan essentially is irrelevant. You know, it's the lost child. It's the market that time forgot. And a lot of people have been saying, you know, so little has happened, so few initiatives have happened in Japan. You know, a lot of these companies in Japan are assuming that the second half is going to be a lot better. They're forecasting big returns, but they don't have a really good record, do they, in forecasting the way things are going to turn out?
Well, but I would still argue, if you go to Japan, it's a country of the perfection. It's clean, it functions, and they have very, very high-quality companies in terms of products. Mm-hmm. So I'm a believer in the long run that some Japanese companies will actually do very well, mm-hmm. and they will become more shareholders friendly. Okay. As a country, it's meaningless in the global economy. It's still, in theory, second largest or third largest economy in the world. Mm-hmm. But it's population-wise, it's shrinking. It's not a meaningful country such as China is or India is.
Mm-hmm. Listening to Mike here.
Yeah, I think the report you were talking about was Morgan Stanley's Alex Kim on Bernie, and he said when he went to New York, only one investor was overweight Japan, only one investor in London overweight Japan. Capacity utilization amongst the developed countries, the lowest in Japan. Also, he says that people who used to be long Japan and could get a certain effect from putting it in their portfolios don't need to do that now. They can put Asia X in their portfolios, developing markets, and Japan has become irrelevant from a long-term investment perspective. Would you say there's any truth in that?
Well, if you're asking me, yes, I think most investors have kind of given up on Japan. I mean, in fact, most investors, individual investors, have given up on equities, period. Yeah. And certainly on Japan, because it's been like Brazil between 1970 and 1990, a country of the future and never worked out. But I think that in general, my view would be that you should be long Japan for the next 5 years, and that Japan will actually outperform many other markets.
I think so. Yes, that's interesting, because you were just telling me how socio-politically it's in decline.
Yes, but the companies can do well, and also what has happened is the valuations are very low in terms of compared to the bond yield in Japan.
Right. What are you? You know, we're seeing a lot of liquidity, right? A lot of cash flushing its way back in. To the region. Are you concerned that a lot of this money is not here to stay, that a lot of it is kind of the speculative swirl of money?
Not at all. I think if you look around the world, you can invest in real estate, in commodities, in bonds, in cash, and in equities. Then you look at equities around the world. Right. You can invest in the US, in Europe, Latin America, Central Asia, Russia, and Asia. I think of all the regions in the world, the Asian region is still the most attractive by far, by far. And so money that has been for years and years in America and in Europe is looking for investments in Asia. And by the way, a lot of funds will move from Europe to Asia, because in Europe the tax haven status is being eliminated by government pressures. Yeah. Whereas if the US government comes to Hong Kong, or the European EU comes to Hong Kong, the Chinese will tell them, stuff you.
Thank you very much. Of course, the IRS would have trouble finding people in Chiang Mai, Thailand as well. Yes. One would hope. It's still to come on AC. He can't feed his folks. He might not get his brandy and fresh lobsters if the world slaps on more sanctions. But